Hey, church family. I hope you're having a great day. I just wanted to share a few thoughts with you today as we're kind of walking through the last week of Jesus' life, what we often call Passion Week. And yesterday we talked about some things as it relates to Palm Sunday. And today I wanted to share a few thoughts with you as it relates to that Monday, the last Monday of Jesus' life. Here's what Matthew writes in Matthew chapter 21. This is in verse 12. He says, Jesus entered the temple area and drove out all who were buying and selling there. He overturned the tables of the money changers and the benches of those selling doves. It is written, he said to them, my house will be called a house of prayer, but you are making it a den of robbers. You know, it's kind of a crazy turn of events when you think about what happened. I mean, it was just yesterday that Jesus had the whole city in this patriotic uproar, and now he's storming into the very temple itself, the center and the heart of Jewish worship and culture. And he's creating a different kind of uproar, a completely different kind of uproar. I mean, just yesterday, palm branches are waving and people are shouting cries of deliverance or for deliverance. And now today, that last Monday, doves are flapping and people are shouting completely different things and money's flying everywhere. And this teacher from Galilee, once again, stirring up trouble. But if you think about it, stirring up is kind of what Jesus does. It's kind of what happens when he enters the scene. And this scene on Monday, I think, has some parallels in our own individual journey of faith. Jesus comes on the scene and priorities are overturned, expectations and assumptions are swept away. The first thing he did when he entered Jerusalem is the first thing he does when he enters a life. He goes straight to the heart, to the core and the center of who we are, and he cleans out whatever is not part of God's design. Of course, the danger is that we often think we know the kind of things that Jesus wants to get rid of. And so we look at this picture here in Matthew chapter 21, and we read about him overturning the tables and the things that people were doing there. And we may look at it, and maybe we don't know the whole picture, but even if you know some of it, you say, okay, I get that that's a big deal. And so, yeah, that's the kind of things that Jesus wants to get rid of. Or maybe we look at the lives of those around us or the world around us and some of the things that we see, and we look at those big sins and particular actions that we sometimes equate to those big sins, and we say, yeah, those are the kind of things that Jesus wants to get rid of. And even in our own lives, we may look at ourselves and our lives and we say, well, I don't do this and I don't do that, the quote-unquote big sins, because that's the kind of stuff that Jesus wants to get rid of. But no doubt the reaction to Jesus' cleansing on that Monday was two things. One of both surprise, but also one of resistance. On one hand, you can just imagine many of the people who are watching Jesus' actions, they're seeing what he's doing, and their mouths are agape, and they are in shock and surprise and astonishment as they look on and they cry out to one another and to themselves, what is he doing? And then on the other hand, you've got the religious leaders who are angry and resistant, and they cry out to themselves and to one another, what does he think he's doing? But Jesus knew what stood between God and people in those days, and he still knows what stands between us and God today. And maybe surprise and or resistance is how we often feel when God's house cleaning gets underway, especially when it's not the one that we envisioned or in the way that we envisioned. But it's not just those big sins, quote unquote, that Jesus wants to get rid of. But it's also all the other stuff that gets in the way of us in a relationship with him. Things like prejudices and old hurts and fears and selfishness and anger and greed, and the list goes on and on and on. You fill in the blank for what it is maybe in your life. Whatever gets in the way of our relationship with him, it has to go. It's around that time of year that many of us start to do spring cleaning, and with all this extra free time, I'm sure you've got plenty of things on your list. But my question to us is this: what are some areas in your life that need Jesus' cleaning, that need his cleansing? And maybe our natural reaction when Jesus, the cleanser, strides in and he starts to cleanse some areas in our lives, maybe that we don't really want to let go of. Our natural reaction is oftentimes to cry out, maybe in surprise, "What are you doing?" Or maybe oftentimes even in resistance. "Jesus, what do you think you're doing?" And his reply to us is simply this: "I'm making myself a temple." I hope you have a blessed day. God bless.